The hardest part about moving out of your parents' house or living alone is figuring out if you can afford it. Here's what I wish someone taught me before moving out. First, make a list of items before the move, during, and after. Then underneath each section, write down 3 things you absolutely need to pay for. I wrote down some of mine that you can use for yourself. Then write down the estimated cost for each one. Food is $100 for the first week, and don't forget toiletries. You can label this as planned budget and compare with your actual after moving out.
Here are 5 things I would do if I was starting from zero when it comes to money. Let's say, you have really bad credit card debt, no savings, live paycheck to paycheck, or you don't have credit card debt, but you spend every single penny that comes in and you don't know where it goes and you just want a better financial future, then this video is for you. So step 1 is going to be a personal finance audit. So what I mean by this is you need to write down your income, your fixed expenses, your previous 30 days worth of spending. So if you use a credit card, this will be very easy. And the 4th thing is you need to write down all of your debts if applicable. And the second step, and this is only if you're in debt, but that is that you have to pick either the snowball or avalanche method in order to pay off your debts moving forward. So do your research on both of them and figure out what makes the most sense for you. And the 3rd step, which I think is really fun because it helps you to just visualize where your life can go, you have to create a 1 month, a 3 month, a 6 month, and a 12-month financial goal plan for yourself. And the 4th step is simply asking yourself this one question: what short-term sacrifices are you willing to make in order to make those financial goals that you just created happen? And then for the 5th step, you have to budget. You need to budget, you need to track your spending, and you need to do this monthly.
I went from saving nothing in 2023 to saving $30,000 in 2024. So if you want to save money in 2025, here is a quick fire of the 10 things I did to save money. The first one is auditing my spending, and this completely changed the way that I see money. The biggest thing it made me realize is that the little things do count, and they are what was breaking our budget. Number 2 is using that audit to cancel any subscriptions that you're not using enough to justify their cost. Last night, I was auditing my spending and saw a charge from Disney Plus, and I had completely forgotten I had resubscribed. Next, I stopped any unconscious habit-based spending. This is things like coffees out every day, takeaway lunch every Friday. Anything that wasn't a conscious active choice, I cut. Number 4 is I spent more on my weekly grocery shop. In my audit, I realized our biggest budget killer was the top-up shops we were doing. So we spend more now on our big grocery shop and limit top-up shops to 1 per week. Number 5 is I started checking op shops or borrowing clothes from friends rather than buying new all the time. Following trends is terrible for your wallet and also terrible for the environment. Number 6 is I stopped telling myself the lie that I needed little treats in order to be happy. And rather than chasing that dopamine hit of tapping my card, I found it from more genuine, long-lasting sources. Number 7 is I unfollowed people on social media whose lives look completely different to mine. Influencers are in a different tax bracket to you, so if you try and make your life look like theirs, you're going to be broke. Number 8, my husband and I set really ambitious financial goals, such as paying off our mortgage, and we work on it together. Number 9 is that we started completing regular no-spend challenges. The best part about this is we found that we didn't feel deprived, and in fact, we felt more mentally clear than ever before. And number 10, I stopped being afraid to talk about money.
This is my most asked question is, how do I start? How do I pay my current bills, put back money for next month bills, but still stay ahead and afloat and not get behind on my current bills? I'm going to show you. It's hard. The first month is going to suck. It's going to take discipline, but you can do it. So this is the current cycle you're living in, right? Number 1, you get paid. Number 2, you pay your bills. Number 3, you struggle. You worry, and you don't have enough money to get you through until the next 2 weeks, right? I'm going to try and break this down the best way I can. Let's start by listing our fixed expenses. These are expenses that don't change every single month. They stay the same. This is just an example. I'm just throwing numbers out here to try and show you all. I want you to list every single bill that you have for the month. Subscriptions, everything. Don't leave out anything, because this is going to really matter in just a minute. And then I need you to total it up. Now that you got your total, you need 2 accounts. And I'm just brainstorming here to show you all. A regular account and a bill account. Your regular account is debit card stuff, miscellaneous, groceries. Your bill account, just for bills. There should be $2,280 in that account at all times. Hold on, I'm going to show you how to get there. Your paychecks are going to go into your regular account. So say you make $2,000 every 2 weeks. I know a lot of us don't make that. We're being generous here, okay? So in order not to get behind, you need to save every little bit you can and put into that bill account. Take your total of fixed expenses. In this case, it's $2,280. So I know that's what I need to save up for my first month. Until I save that up, I can't properly budget because I will get behind on my other bills, if that makes sense. Once that money is saved up, I can just replenish it with every paycheck that I get. So that way I'll always have that bill money in my account. You're never struggling or living paycheck to paycheck. Let's just start off by saying your monthly check is $3,000. So you're going to start off by listing your expenses, but you're going to cut those in half. These are going to be your fixed expenses, things that don't ever change. Then you're going to write down paycheck 1, paycheck 2, and just for an example, you're going to write your rent down. Say it's $1,200, you're going to split that in half, $600 out of each paycheck. I promise if you do this, it's going to be a lot easier to pay all your bills at the end of the month instead of being broke and living paycheck to paycheck. You're going to do this for every fixed expense that you have. Instead of one big lump sum coming out of your paycheck, it kind of breaks it up a little bit, so you have a little bit more wiggle room. So let's just say that total is $1,085. So remember, you get paid $1,500 every 2 weeks. These are going to be your variable expenses that change every 2 weeks. Like for instance, gas, or groceries, or miscellaneous. Your miscellaneous can be anything. Your hair, your coffee, shopping, whatever you want to make it, because that's what it's going to be. But you got to stick to it. I'm just going to say $100 for miscellaneous, which on this budget is a little bit tight. So you're going to have to adjust depending on what your paycheck is. So that's $400 coming out of your paycheck every month. Then you need to add in some savings. You got to have savings. And it's honestly not that hard. So with this budget, all you can do is $15. So that's $30 a month, which isn't great, but it's still something going in, right? But if you want to add in more, go adjust your miscellaneous. Budget your groceries a little bit better. Shop sales and coupons. Find free activities to do. If you can get that miscellaneous down a little bit, you can put more into savings. It's all preference. And everyone's are going to look different. But this is what I do every 2 weeks and it helps.
I moved out on my own when I was 19. I am now 25 years old. And I guess I just want to share some helpful tips on how I afford that in a very expensive, ever-changing economy. Big disclaimer, I make way less than $100,000 a year, so I don't want y'all to think that I have this big budget. I don't. I'm not sure if this is revolutionary information, but these are things that I just learned along the way. Number 1, you gotta get creative when it comes to monthly bills and expenses. I pay $10 a month for internet. If you don't know, Comcast, Xfinity, they have a program called Internet Essentials, where basically to qualify, all you have to do is upload a document that shows that you get food stamps. I don't get food stamps because I don't qualify, but I just uploaded my application letter and they approved it within like an hour. Number 2, if you're looking to move into an apartment, always ask about the workforce program. Basically, it's a rent-controlled program that is, I think, federally mandated that requires apartment complexes to set aside a certain amount of units for people who make a certain amount of money. Luckily for me, I make right at that number, so I was able to get a very, very good rate for my apartment. But always ask because it's not usually listed on apartment websites. Always ask them about it. Number 3, when it comes to furnishing your apartment, please do not go broke. Start tapping into apps like Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp. Facebook Marketplace has so many groups where they're just giving away things that they don't want that are in perfectly good condition. Do not sleep on liquidation warehouses.
I'm going to show you how much rent you can afford if you're making $16 an hour working a full-time job. So first, let's look at how much rent you would actually be approved for by the leasing offices. And usually they're looking for your income to be about 2 times the rent, 2.5 times the rent, or 3 times the rent in total. So if you're making $16 an hour working 40 hours a week, that's going to give you about $640 gross before taxes. Then we're going to multiply that by 52 weeks in a year, and that's going to mean that you're making about $33,280 annually gross before taxes. Then take that amount and divide it by 12 months, and this is going to give you the monthly income that they're going to use in order to determine how much rent you will be approved for. So in this example, it'll be about $2,773.33 monthly. And so here I'm writing out how much rent you would be approved for if they were looking for either 2, 2.5, or 3 times the rent. And mind you, this is if you were applying by yourself and trying to live alone. Now, going into how much rent you can actually afford with this income, I would suggest no more than 30 to 40% of your net income should be going towards your rent. So next, we're going to take that $2,773.33 and times it by about 20% to give a rough estimate on how much taxes will be taken out of your check. So after taxes, we get about $2,218.66 net. Next, we're going to calculate the 30% to 40% range of how much you can afford based upon that net income. So for 30%, it's going to be $665.60, and then 40%, $887.46 max. Now, let's say that you were planning on living with the roommate and y'all decided to split the rent in half. So I would take the $887.46 and I would multiply that by 2 to get the total amount of rent that y'all can afford together. And in this case, it's going to be $1,750 for the rent in total. And so that's actually really, really good. And I believe that y'all can get a great place. So use this method and try it out for yourself.
So I originally made my budget based on a $500 a week income and went from there. I knew I was typically going to make more than that, but that was like worst case scenario income. My tips are bad. I'm only working like 4 shifts. I know I'm going to make $500. So first, find out your total monthly income. Then you want to write out all of your expenses for the month. So for me, that's rent, utilities, gas, health expenses, your credit card minimums, stuff like that. So that's going to be different based on everyone. For me, those main ones are like what I just said. There's also like beauty expenses, car insurance, car maintenance, stuff like that. So I do a lot of stuff kind of playing by ear that aren't my like strict monthly expenses. So to figure out, or at least how I figured out how much money I need to put aside every shift towards those fixed monthly expenses, I took my like total cost of my expenses. So let's say my rent is $700 a month, and I know that I am only going to work 16 shifts in that month. $700 divided by 16 is going to be $44 per shift put away towards rent. So that's kind of how I do the math on my fixed expenses like that, where I have a certain amount I'm putting away every single shift. And then for those expenses or like sinking funds that I'm just trying to meet a goal of, I set a goal amount to set aside every single shift. So when I was building up my savings, I was like, okay, I have to put away at least $10 every shift, or I have to put away at least $20 every shift. And then if I had extra money to throw in that sinking fund, I could. So that's how I personally do it. It's not a super complicated system. And for stuff like gas, beauty expenses, personal spending, a lot of that is playing it by ear. So like right now, I have a full tank of gas. So after today's shift, I did not put any money in my gas folder. But I do have a haircut coming up this week, so I put money in my beauty folder that I normally am not contributing money to, because I don't spend a lot of money on like my makeup or hair or anything like that unless I know I need to repurchase something. So that's kind of how I do it. It really depends on your goals. If you get paid a paycheck, that's really easy to figure out, like your total income. And if you are paid a paycheck instead of getting cash at the end of the night, in high school when I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, I would go to the bank when I got my paycheck. I would figure out how much I needed to put in every one of my cash folders, and I would withdraw certain denominations. So I'm like, okay, I need 5 20s, I need 4 10s, I need 3 5s, or whatever it was. So that's how I kind of do it. It's all about your personal expenses and your personal financial goals. But that's how I do it. And then as far as the categories that I created for my binder, I got this off Amazon, and it came with like pre-made labels, and they're really cute. They look like this, and most of those were kind of what I needed. And then it did have some like blank squares where you can like write your own stuff on it. So for expenses that are more personalized, like this is the folder for my mom, or I have a folder called apartment things. They even had stickers for like car maintenance. So that's how I'm able to kind of organize my folder. And I also put them front to back in order of priority. So the folders that I know I'm actively contributing to are kind of up front. And that way I see them first. I know my money goes in there first. And then my more like frivolous funds, I guess, like beauty or clothing, are going to be towards the back, because that's where I can throw extra cash if I know I want to go buy a new pair of jeans or go repurchase a moisturizer that I'm running out of. So that's how I personally do it. It's really going to be based on your own budget and your own expenses and your own income and all of that good stuff. But that's how I make it work for me. And if y'all have any other questions, just let me know. All right, bye y'all.